This is the Independent Broadcasting Authority. Hello again and welcome to our weekly roundup of engineering announcements for the radio and television trade. Well, an era is about to end as engineering announcements is broadcast on ITV transmitters for the last time, but will still be on Channel 4 and S4C. Pat Hawker and Peter Ashforth exchange memories of the years when engineering announcements was Britain's only form of breakfast television.
And we'll even find time for some transmitter news this morning, with the latest on Channel 4 coverage, special announcements for both networks, and full details of 3 brand new television relay stations. In the west of England, Blakeney and Frome for HTV West and Channel 4, and in South Wales, Burryport for HTV Wales and S4C.
But before all that, the thoughts of Service Manager Morris of Cambrian Coast Electrics in Gwynedd.
What? Take our favourite programme off the air just to let TVAM have an extra 15 minutes? Not likely. Actually, it might boost TVAM's advertising ratings if they incorporated the engineering bulletin in their programme.
Nice thought, Mr. Morris, but we think TVAM can well do without that. The fact is that the gap in programmes which we conveniently slot into on ITV is to be and has to be eliminated. Part of the reason for having the break was for British Telecom to reconnect the local ITV companies each morning. But now all that switching has been automated and that breathing space is no longer required.
But don't despair, we're continuing on Tuesdays at 9:15 on all Channel 4 and S4C transmitters. We realise we won't reach some of the people who need the information most, but there's no alternative. And don't forget we still have transmitter information and other items on Oracle page 111, which of course remains on ITV. It was back in 1970, on November the 23rd, that the first engineering announcements went out. These were the early days of colour, with only 14 high-power stations and no relays at all. One man who's been involved right from the start is Pat Hawker, and he's joined today in our London studio by another long-serving contributor, Peter Ashforth.
Well, this really is like old times again, Pat. I personally haven't been on engineering announcements now for over a year, but you still, of course, soldier on regularly. Now, I'm sure that in over 12 years of doing these spots, you must have covered just about every engineering topic there is. Do you think you could find enough to talk about for another 12 years?
I doubt it, but on the other hand, there is an awful lot still happening in the television field and, of course, in radio as well. And things are happening all the time that the trade need to be kept informed about and kept in touch. And we do feel that it's a useful type of operation.
Was that the original purpose of engineering announcements, to keep the trade informed of new developments, new things coming along?
Well, basically, it was to do with the UHF transmitter network. In 1970, we did have a problem. Local relay stations were not coming on at the time that we had originally expected. It was the only time I can think of where our transmitters did run into technical problems. And so the result was we felt the trade must know when stations were going to open. And we were getting absolutely swamped by inquiries, so we started the engineering announcements to overcome that.
But then, of course, the programme branched out and started to take in other fields as well. What would be the chief landmarks?
Well, one of the landmarks, in a way, was the introduction of Oracle, in which you were very much involved. The very first time that the teletext system was checked out, and this was back in April '73, was on engineering announcements. We branched out a good deal more than the beginning, because at first we had very little real equipment. Of course, we're not program makers. We had to make do and mend with all sorts of odd bits of equipment, no electronic character generators.
Yes, I well remember myself that we did start off the programme in a fairly amateurish way.
Indeed, we in fact, for quite a long period of time, up here before the studios and so on was ready down at Crawley Court, we used to record in a cupboard. And of course, every time the tea trolley went by, there was difficulties.
I personally will never forget the occasion when we were making some announcements live early in the morning, and the tea lady burst into the studio pushing a tea trolley and asked perfectly clearly, that went out over the air, if either of us would like a cup of tea and whether we took sugar.
Well, one thing that sticks in my mind, Peter, when you said that Arfon was Arfon, but perhaps that's better forgotten.
Yes, well, it is forgotten. It was Arf on was Arf off. Yes, we actually had calls after that programme, people congratulating us on showing a sense of humour. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed this brief personal return to engineering announcements, and thank you very much indeed, Pat.
Thank you, Peter.
Down to business now, and transmitter news starting with Channel 4 coverage. On the south coast, the Brighton relay at Whitehawk Hill began Channel 4 transmissions last Thursday. Port Slade, Ovingdean and Saltdean all followed suit a few days later. 3 more established relays are due to have the 4th channel commissioned in a week or two. They are Poole, channel 53, Stroud, channel 52, and Morven, channel 68. All 3 will probably come on the air towards the end of next week.
Now special announcements for transmitters already on air. In Devon, Beacon Hill continues on reduced power for aerial maintenance, with interruptions on some mornings. The same applies to Chatton and Knockmore, and work at all 3 is due to continue until mid-June.
In Northern Ireland, Limavady will be on reduced power for about another week, for work in connection with the 4th channel.
Also for 4th channel installation work, Darvel has begun a period of reduced power working, expected to last for about 2 weeks.
In Yorkshire, Emily Moore, channel 4, will be on reduced power during the day next Monday.
An advanced warning that Heathfield will be on reduced power for about 10 days from early next week.
In Buckinghamshire, the Great Missenden relay will be off this Friday from 9 until 1 for Electricity Board maintenance.
And in Derbyshire, the Birch Vale relay will be off on Sunday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. for essential maintenance on the electricity supply.
New relays now, and 2 stations entered official service last Friday. Frome and Blakeney both used channels 24 and 31 for ITV and Channel 4 respectively. So it's Group A aerials vertically polarised in each case. Frome and Blakeney are now in official programme service.
Northwest of Swansea, the new relay at Bury Port has slipped back a week in the schedule. We're now hoping that the station will start transmissions towards the end of next week. It will offer better reception to around 700 people in the northern parts of the town. HTV Wales will be on Channel 61 and S4C on 54, so it's Group CD aerials vertically polarised. That's Bury Port in South Wales, due on the air in a week or 2.
We're almost out of time, so here's our address. And you can telephone us on Winchester STD code 0962 822444.
Well, that really is it as far as ITV is concerned. After 12.5 years and 637 editions, it's the end of the line. But we're hoping that most of you will stay with us as we continue on Channel 4 and S4C. From Janet Smythe, myself, John Lovell, and all of us here at Crawley Court, goodbye.